We found really there were three major segments, and one is what we call the sort of go-getting mothers who were interested in careers and didn't want to abandon their careers. These are the women who would go back to work, just a month or 6 weeks after they would have their children. But then there was this other set of mothers who we call the easygoing mothers, for whom the career wasn't so important, and they were pretty relaxed in the way they were bringing up their children, not putting all the pressure on the child. It was the third set, who we call the dedicated mothers, who remain the biggest segment among the three, and therefore they are the stereotype that is usually portrayed of mothers who are completely obsessed with their child yet don't want to lose out on their careers or on the workplace. These were the ones who were having the toughest time really in balancing both roles of a worker as well as a mother. There are differences between the tiers, and part of the reason for that is because typically the big city mother would have only one child on whom all her ambitions, or she was being judged by how she brought up that child. Therefore the pressures were much greater. The lower tier mothers, some of them who had two children, and when you go even further down, as we discovered in the study that we did in the 4th, 5th and 6th tiers, which is that generally families had two kids, there the mothers were much more relaxed in the way that they were bringing up children. And the slightly older mothers, 7, 8 years old, 10 years old, they were this was the stage where the kids were dealing with matters of social adjustment, and this was the time where also interestingly a lot of the food safety issues came up, because the kids had started to eat out, independent of their parents' supervision, and what they were having was always what they were being served at school, for example. And there have been these cases of food poisoning in school, and the mothers were obviously concerned about what the kids were eating outside. And one of the interesting things, of course, was that this whole thing about engaging or having conversations about the child and the baby and forming communities starts just after the child is born and the woman hasn't really gone to work. Yeah, she's still staying at home. She still needs to mind the baby, and that's when she misses the social interaction, which she usually had plenty of before she got, pregnant, really. And this is the time when they start forming groups and comparing notes, and also doing, getting together and doing tuango or bulk buying, because they figure out, which is where to get the best deals. Food safety is a big concern. Toy safety is a big concern. Safety of clothes themselves. So, for example, we found that there was one mother who said that I don't buy brightly colored clothes because I think pigments that go into those clothes may not be safe. They're so bright, that can't be true. Only about 20% of all families actually have one child. So the Little Emperor, was one generation. It was mostly in the big cities where they were being spoiled and pampered and so on. And I think even today, that little emperor or empress, if he or she exists in the big city, is under so much pressure, right? So in the first few years there might be that pampering, but by the time the child is 7 or 8 years, he or she is already facing so much pressure that there's no room for really pampering anymore. So when you look at the whole sort of relationship that the mother has with the child, the only aspect which seems to be highlighted is this whole expectation of the child to be successful, always getting the medals, getting the trophies, and knowing all the correct answers, and that's the assumption that is what would make the mother feel proud. And in this whole sort of discourse, what is getting sort of missed out, and what is actually sort of almost tragic, is that only increases the pressure on the mother, because she is being judged entirely by how the child turns out, and in no other way. And obviously there is so much more about being a mother. There is so much of joy and gratification about being a mother than the child's report card. But the child's report card, being the mother's report card, is really something that is constantly being reinforced by I think brands and marketing, especially everything that is aimed at children and mothers.